Hey DJs, wanna learn how to tone play in 30 seconds? Pick a track with some nice melody. Set the cue points on the samples of that melody. Count how many different notes are there. Find the tracks that are in the same key. Choose one that have nice and clean melody samples and set up the cue points. Again, count how many different notes are there and if their number is at least the same as on the other track. Compare all the cue points on both tracks to find out if they play the same notes. If the notes match, jackpot, you got your tone play. Oh, I'm sorry, was that too fast? Let's try this one more time. This is your boy 69 Beats, and I'm here to break all of this down nice and slow. Let's finally learn one of the most popular, if not the most popular, battle and showcase DJ technique over the last years. The love it or hate it, the feel the vibe or kill the vibe, the in tune or out of tune, the tone play. Such a simple idea, right? Take one track and use its parts to play the melody of another track. Sounds easy, but we all know that it's not that easy. Many people do it right, but even more people do it wrong. Sorry, just being honest. And even more people struggle with the very basic stage of creating a tone play transition, which is finding the tone plays. But don't you worry about a thing, I am here to help. I'm gonna give you the tone play recipe. I want to teach you the creative process that you will be able to remember and apply to make various tone play transitions as long as the tracks that you will pick will allow that. So this video comes down to answering two of the most frequent questions on this subject: how to find tone plays and how to play them in tune without any advanced musical knowledge or education. I want to keep all this as easy and basic as possible. So we are not going to use any editing in DAW, and we are not going to use any transposing methods. We are simply going to use the original versions of the tracks, just the cue points, and we're gonna do everything inside our DJ software. You've already seen the sneak peek of my method at the beginning of the video, so now let's take it slow, step by step, using some fresh example. But before we jump onto the decks, I want to give you a little tip that will make the whole thing a lot faster and easier. Start from the end. And by that I mean start with picking the second track, the track that you want to transition into. If you ever wrote something like a story or a thesis, you should know that it's really hard to write an intro if you don't know how your work is going to develop. It's a lot easier if you have the middle and the ending done. The same goes for tone play. While my method can work both ways, it's a lot easier to do when you know where you are going. This is exactly how I made my video with 32 next episode tone plays. If you haven't seen it, make sure to check it out. You will find the link in the description. So I knew where I want to go. I had the ending of my story, a certain melody to play, and I knew what to look for inside the other tracks. It will be almost impossible to do the opposite way. Picking 32 tracks at random and try to find out if they can be used to play the same melody. Or picking one track and trying to play 32 other tracks with it. As I said, my method can work both ways, but the next episode video is just an extreme example of how starting with the second track makes the whole process a lot easier. So now let's jump onto the decks and finally see how this works. Okay, so step 0, what do we actually need? At first, obviously, we're gonna need some DJ software that will scan our tracks and will let us know what key they're in. So basically any DJ software that exists today. Secondly, it would be nice to have some kind of controller that will allow you to set up the cue points and play them dynamically, but it can also be your laptop's keyboard. And that's it. As you can see, I'm using Pioneer DJ's battle setup containing 2 PLX 1000 turntables, DJ MS9 mixer, and DDJ XP1 controller. It's a lot of pads and it's often very helpful with the tone plays, but for this tutorial I'm only going to use the pads on the S9 mixer, so it's gonna be 8 cue points for each side, left and right, as same as on the most DJ gear that is out there right now. Okay, so step 1, picking the track that you wanna play. We're going to be looking for tracks that have some nice clear melody that should be fairly easy to remember and recognizable. and should allow us to set up the cue points easily on the samples of that melody. So I did some research recently to give you some fresh example instead of a tone play that you already heard 1,000 times. And I found a really nice track by J. Cole called The Middle Child, which has a really good melody right from the beginning. Let's hear it.
You good, T-minus?
We're not going to listen to it anymore, because this is the part that we want to tone play. And here's where the real fun begins. Step 2. Setting up the cue points and counting different notes. We need to set up the cue points on each note of the melody and try to separate different notes and count them. Knowing the number of the notes is essential to find another track for the transition later. So here's how to do that. We're gonna play the track and set up the cue points on the fly, and if we miss some sound, we're just gonna stop and adjust with the vinyl. Let's try it.
You good, T-minus?
So let's hear how it went. I think that's pretty good. So as you can see, we have perfectly 8 cue points. Now probably some of you could already hear that most of these cue points will represent the same sounds that just repeated themselves. But the point is, as I said before, I want to show you the whole process that you will be able to apply to other tracks, which could be more complicated than this one. So now we have to check which cue point represent the same notes as some others and get rid of any doubles. We're gonna do it until we have the right number of cue points, the same as the number of notes in the melody. To do that, we have to keep playing a single cue point and compare it to all of the others. Something like this. If you can say which notes are the same and which are different immediately, then that's great, congrats on your hearing. But if you're struggling with that, help is closer than you think. Use the greatest musical instrument and tool that exists, your own body. You can, for example, sing or whistle each cue point by yourself and then do the same with the other cue points. Maybe like this. So now, when you sing the notes on the cue points, you should be able to tell if you're whistling or singing the same notes or not. When you'll be sure about the result, just delete the cue points that repeat the notes. This should get you to the point of the minimal number of cue points, which will allow you to play the whole melody. Let's do this together again. I think that's a match, so we're gonna delete the cue point number 2 and keep comparing the others. Again, I think that's a match, so I'm gonna delete it. Again, a match, I'm gonna delete it. I think that's different, so let's whistle it. You should be able to tell that you're whistling some other note. As we can hear, it's different, so I'm gonna put this cue point right here and delete this one. Now we have the second sound. Let's check the rest of the cue points. Okay, so now we are sure that these 3 cue points are different than cue point number 1, so now let's check the second note. I think that's a match, so I'm gonna delete it. Another cue point. Another match, another delete, and the last one. And that's different, so I'm gonna put it right here, delete. And now we have 3 cue points that should allow us to play the whole melody. Let's try it.
You good?
See? So let's give them maybe some color. I'm gonna give this one maybe red, this one blue, and this one, let's make it pink. This information, 3 cue points, 3 notes, allow us to move on to the next step, which is finding another track for our transition. To do this, we need to go and find all the tracks in our collection that are in the same key. This is the easiest way to find our tone play. Of course, we could use some transposing methods or the Camelot wheel, but let's keep it as basic as possible. So right here in Rekordbox, I'm gonna create an intelligent playlist. Let's name it key 5A, because that's the key of the middle child. Key equals 5A. I'm gonna add some other conditions to get rid of any unnecessary samples and stuff like this. Time more than 10 seconds. I'm gonna sort it by BPM and start from the top. If you use some other software or don't know how to create intelligent playlists, you can just open the whole collection and sort it by key. Find the right key and then just browse the tracks. I decided to create a separate playlist so I don't have to work with the whole collection opened. So now's the time when the information gathered from the previous step comes in. We have a melody that can be played with 3 notes, so the goal is to find the tracks that have at least 3 notes. So now we're going to just go through each of these tracks and repeat the whole process from step 2. And if we find any track that has at least 3 notes, we're gonna compare them to the notes of the middle child the same way that we compared cue points within the middle child. So let's try to find some tracks that have a nice and clear melody. As you can see, I already skipped some of the tracks which have a melody, but the samples were too busy, in my opinion, to try and use them for the tone play. For example, they have some drums under it, some vocals and stuff like that. We just wanna to have some nice, clear shots of instruments to play the clear melody. So let's check out this jazz track, maybe that will help us. I think that these steps right here should be pretty nice to try. Let's do it. So I'm gonna set up turntable right on the first step and set up each cue point. The melody goes pretty crazy after, but I think those 5 cue points should be a nice start. So now let's compare them to see how many notes do we have. I'm pretty sure that these are 5 different notes, but let's do the whole process that I'm trying to teach you. So let's play each cue point one by one and compare it to all of the others, like this. No doubles, so let's try the second one. Again, no doubles, so let's try the third one. Again, no doubles. Okay, so we have 5 notes, which is more than 3 on the middle child, and now we are ready to compare the notes from the upswinging to the middle child. Let's do this one by one. I'm gonna compare each cue point of upswinging to each cue point of the middle child. Let's try it. Different. Let's try another one. Again different, so let's try the third one. Again different, so now we are sure that second cue point on upswinging won't have a match, so we can just delete it and try the rest of them. I'm pretty sure that's a match. So now I'm gonna give this cue point the same color as with the middle child, which is gonna be pink. And now let's compare the remaining cue points. I think that's the same again, so let's paint this one blue, and we are now left with the one cue point, and let's see if we have a match to do our tone play. I'm pretty sure that's a match, so let's paint it red, and we can get rid of the first one that was too busy and not sounding very well. And now I'm gonna set the cue points in the same order as on the middle child, so blue one right here, pink one right here. I'm gonna put them on the top, give them the color again. So now we have red, blue, pink, and let's see if we can recreate the melody of the middle child.
You good, T-minus?
The notes are pretty short, so I'm gonna use the echo for it.
You good, T-minus?
Did you hear that? It's a match. We got our tone play. We actually didn't need to put the same notes in the same cue points and order on both tracks, but it makes it a bit easier to learn and recreate the pattern. If you feel comfortable setting up those cue points some other way, just do it. It's all up to you. Now, the way you're gonna play the whole transition is also up to you. Different styles of doing the whole tone play transition is a whole material for another tutorial. And here we just focus on finding them and being in tune. Alright, so we have our middle child tone play, but what if we just got lucky? Maybe we should keep browsing the library and try to find just a little bit of a confirmation that this method works. So let's try to find some more tracks that should be nice to play a melody. Too much vocal everywhere here. I can stop. I think those synths should be pretty nice to try a melody. Let's find the beginning, set up the cue points, okay, so we already reached 8 cue points. I have 16 cue points right here on the record box, but if you're using some different device or different software, you should now check if there's any doubles on these 8 cue points, delete the doubles, and if you get any free space, then move on to next notes in the melody. So let's try that. That's the same note. I'm gonna delete the cue point number 1 because it was really busy with the kick and the vocal. That's a double. I'm gonna delete this one because it has some vocal and this sounds clearer. Okay, so first note right here. Let's check the second. We have our second note. Let's check another one. That's already a double, and I'm gonna keep this one because it's longer, and if I'm going to play the melody, I will avoid getting a note that I don't want in my tone play, which I get right after clicking this cue point. And over here I get this nice long note, so I'm gonna delete that, pop this one right here, compare it to the rest of them. Okay, so this goes right here, this goes right here. And now we got 3 cue points free, so we can move on with the melody. Again, 8 cue points wasn't enough, so let's check again if there's any doubles with the new 3 cue points. That's a double, and I'm gonna stay with this one, although it has some vocal, but this is really short. And as I said before, I don't want any notes that come right after it, so I'm gonna delete it, check the rest. That's a double. I'm gonna delete this one because it was short. That's a double. I'm gonna keep this one because it's longer. And the last note, I got some new free space, so I'm gonna put it here. Compare it to the previous cue points. Okay, so we have 6 notes here, 3 notes here. Let's compare it. See? First note, first match. Let's paint it red. Let's check the second one. I think that's a match. So let's paint it blue. And the third one. Not a match. Let's delete it. I think that's a match. So let's get rid of these two. Let's paint it pink. Let's make it in order like on the middle child. And let's try to play the tone play.
You good, T-minus?
Alrighty. So first one, maybe we got lucky. Second one, maybe it wasn't just luck. Maybe there's something going on. So maybe let's try to find the third tone play to confirm if this method works or not. This melody is pretty nice, so we can try it. I can already hear that with each beat we get the same melody pattern, but one note stands out. So let's not set up a million of cue points, but set up only the pattern and then one note that stands out. Okay, so we have 5 notes. Let's compare them if we have any doubles. That's a double. I'm gonna delete this one. Put this right here. Okay, so we have 4 notes, 3 notes on the middle child. Let's compare it. That's a match. Let's paint it red. Blue one. No match for the blue one. So we can just skip that track because we won't be able to make a correct tone play. But let's not give up and try to find some more. There was a couple of tracks that I could try, but I really like the synth on bottoms up because it's really clear and it gives us a couple of different notes. So maybe it will be suitable. So let's try to set up the cue points. The vocal comes in on the 7th cue point, so I'm gonna delete these two, compare these cue points. You just couldn't hear more clearly that this one is a double. So I'm gonna delete that. Okay, so we have 5 notes, 3 notes on the middle child. Let's compare them. I'm pretty sure that's a match. Let's paint it red. Blue one. I'm pretty sure that's a match. Let's paint it blue. Pink one. another match. Let's delete these two, put them in order. Bang, bang, bang. Red, blue, pink. And let's recreate the melody again.
You good, T-minus?
Boom! So as you can see, browsing less than 30 tracks allowed us to find 3 different middle child tone plays, and I'm pretty sure that we could find much more, because 30 tracks is a really tiny part of an average DJ's collection. So using this method gives us a great opportunity to not only find the tone plays, but also having an actual choice of many, so we can decide which one works the best for us, for our routine, for our performance, or simply sounds better than the other tone plays. Alright, so now that we found a couple of tone plays for a 3-note melody, how about something harder? Let's find out if this method can be used to find some more complicated tone plays. So right when I started working on this tutorial, this one came out and I immediately knew that it's gonna make a great example. It's Never Gonna Change by Pac-Man the Gunman. It has that nice piano in a beat, so let's hear it. We're not gonna focus on the bass line, we're just gonna focus on the piano. So there's a clear pattern in the melody that repeats every 2 bars. But first bar is a little bit different than the second bar. So let's try to set up the cue points on the piano accurately to that. Okay, so now that we have all the notes from both bars, let's try to find if there's any doubles. That's one a double. I'm gonna delete that. That's a triple double, so I'm gonna pick the one that is the most clear one. And it's obviously that one. So I'm gonna put it right here, delete. Okay, so we are left with 5 notes, and we should be able to recreate the melody using these 5 notes. Let's try it. See? So we can play both bars using these 5 cue points. These are the cue points that we have to find in other tracks. To do that, we have to follow the process of finding the tracks that have at least 5 different notes. So let's go on to our playlist and try to find them. Without any loading and checking, I can already see Headband by B.O.B. over here. I know this track, I know that it has that nice whistling samples at the beginning, so I don't have to check every single track. I can go straight to the tracks that I know have a nice samples. So remember, you have to know your music, because that will make everything faster and easier. And as a DJ, you should know the music that you have in your collection. Okay, so let's hear the melody and try to set up the cue points. And remember, you don't have to blindly follow the whole procedure. If you can hear any doubles or patterns in the melody, you don't have to set up every single cue point on every single sound. You can just skip those that you're sure and set up the cue points on the rest. So in this case, I'm gonna skip the doubles on the fly and see what I can do with it. I'm pretty sure that from this point, the melody used these cue points right here, and I could recreate it using these cue points. Let's try it. See? But I know and I remember that there's one single note right here at the end, so let's use it. Okay, so now that I'm sure we have 7 different notes over here and 5 notes over here. So let's start comparing them. See, already, first note, first match. Let's give them the same color. I like the red one. Second note. Not a match. Let's try the third. I'm pretty sure that's a match, so let's paint it blue. Third note. Again, it's a match. Pink. Fourth note. Again, it's a match. And the last note. I'm pretty sure that's a match. Boom. Let's delete those that we don't need. Same order. So now let's try to play the pattern on Never Gonna Change again and then try to recreate it on B.O.B.'s headband. Okay, so I'm pretty sure we can recreate the melody, but we are getting some additional notes in here if we just push the cue point once. So maybe let's try to use the echo and the up fader to recreate the melody properly. Boom! We have our 5-note tone play. So let's check if we didn't get lucky again, and let's try to find another example if we can do the tone play of Never Gonna Change. So after a little while of searching, I found this old gem, which is Hypnotize by DJ Tomek and Lil Kim, and it again has a nice clear melody at the beginning with apparently a lot of sounds. So let's try it if we can set up the cue points and see if we get more than 5 notes. Let's stay on the melody without any vocals and try to set up the cue points. Eight cue points reached. I'm gonna check for the doubles. Okay, so I came to the point with 7 cue points, which is more than 5, and we are ready to compare the notes. Once again, first note, first match. Let's make it red. Blue one. There's a match for the blue one. There's a match for the pink one. There's a match for the yellow. And 5th note. There's a match for the last one. We can delete the greens. We have 5 here, 5 here, all match. Let's put them in the same order. And now we should be able to recreate the whole melody on both sides. So let's try it. I'm gonna keep pushing it faster, so I will avoid the sounds that I don't want, but they come after the cue points. So I'm gonna keep pushing a single cue point as fast as I can to avoid the unwanted sounds. Okay, it's gonna be fast, so I'm gonna use the silent cue point over here so I can trigger Never Gonna Change without using the faders, but just with the cue point.
Wonder why they call me a loke and I'm always in the field.
Okay, so there we go. 2 different tone plays, 5-note melody. I think the method works. And the cool thing is, these tracks were in the same key as the tone play of the middle child that we made before, which had 3 notes. So let's check again if we can play middle child using these 3 tracks that we used right now. I think that's gonna be the first note, so let's try it.
You good, T minus?
The second one was the headband.
You good, T minus?
And Never Gonna Change.
You good, T minus?
So as you can see, the more research you do within the same key, the more tone plays you will find. And there's really no need to use some freaky transposing methods or using the DAW to edit the tracks. You can of course do that, but if you are just starting with tone plays and you are not familiar with any other methods, this should do just fine at the beginning of your tone play journey. Oh, and there's just one more thing for the end. We have 5 notes here, and guess what track has less than 5 notes? Yep, you guessed it. Okay guys, so that was my basic recipe for you to find your tone plays and play them in tune. Go ahead, try it by yourself and make sure to let me know how it works for you. If you will find any tone plays using my method, I'll be more than happy to see it. So either post the videos in the comments or send me in a direct message. I can't wait to see what you guys gonna come up with after watching this. If you have any additional questions, make sure to post them in the comments. I will answer as much as I can. Same goes if you have any suggestions for future tutorials you would like to see from me, let me know. And that will be all. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends so we can push the DJing culture forward together. That was your boy 69 Beats, signing off. Peace!